I'm Emily, a 25-year-old who had been living a quiet, unremarkable life with my boyfriend Mike. Our relationship, which had started back in college, felt more like a familiar routine than a passionate romance. We often argued, mainly about Mike's lack of interest in planning for the future or his late-night gaming marathons, which left me to sleep alone. We were constantly skirting around the big question of our future without ever really addressing it. It wasn't that we didn't care for each other. It's just that somewhere along the way, we stopped making an effort. My parents, Sue and George, were the polar opposite of us. Married for over 30 years, they still shared loving glances and private jokes, their bond seemingly unbreakable. They were the ideal I aspired to find for myself, even if it wasn't going to be with Mike. On the evening of the crash, I remember arguing with Mike about something as trivial as unsorted laundry. He had promised to handle it, but as usual, the promise was as empty as the laundry basket was full. "Can't you just do one thing you say you're going to do?" I asked, my frustration evident. "It's just laundry, Em. It'll get done eventually," he replied, his attention fixed on his computer screen. The argument fizzled out, as they often did, leaving the deeper issues unresolved. Later, as I sat in the back seat of my parents' car, their warmth and laughter provided a soothing balm to the residual frustration from the argument. They were celebrating another year of Mom's life, and their joy was infectious. Then, in an instant, everything changed. Headlights collided with the sound of metal on metal, and everything went black. When I woke up, the antiseptic smell of the hospital and the relentless beeping of the heart monitor were the first things I noticed. The doctor's words were clinical and detached, but the message was clear. My parents didn't survive, and my legs, once taken for granted, might never carry me again. The truth settled like a stone in my stomach. I was terrifyingly alone. Mike, who had just argued with me about laundry, was now my only connection to a life before the crash. The life where my biggest worry was whether he'd sort the whites from the colors. As the reality of my parents' absence and my potential paralysis began to sink in, a hollow despair took root. The future, once a landscape of possibilities, now felt like a barren field. The hospital room was a bubble where time moved too quickly and not at all. After what felt like an eternity of white walls and echoing silence, Mike walked in, his parents Janet and Bob a step behind him. The atmosphere was heavy with a somberness that made my heart sink even further. Mike pulled up a chair next to my bed and took my hand, his usual bravado absent. His parents stood by the door, a united front of awkward concern. "Hey, Em," Mike began, his voice a rough whisper. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us." He paused, looking at me with an emotion I couldn't quite place. Everything that's happened, has made me realize how short life can be. I don't want to wait for the perfect moment anymore because it might never come. I want to say something, but the words seem stuck in my throat. What I'm trying to say is, will you marry me, Emily? The question hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. It was the last thing I thought I'd hear, especially now. I searched his face for the impulsive Mike I knew, but all I saw was earnestness. Janet stepped forward, her hands clasped. "We want you to be a part of our family, Emily. We'll take care of you, and it's not out of pity," Bob added quickly. "It's because we love you and want to support Mike in taking this step." I was stunned, my mind racing. This was a lifeline, unexpected and maybe even a little reckless, but a lifeline nonetheless. I looked at Mike, really looked at him, and saw not just my sometimes immature boyfriend, but a man offering support in the most uncertain time of my life. "Mike, my voice trailed off as I tried to gather my thoughts. "It's okay, Em. You don't have to decide right now. I just wanted you to know how I feel," he said, his thumb rubbing circles on the back of my hand. I thought about my parents and the unwavering love and support they had always shown me. Wasn't this what they would have wanted, for me to be loved and cared for no matter what? "Yes," I found myself saying, the words stronger than I felt. "Yes, I'll marry you." A genuine smile spread across Mike's face, the first I'd seen in days. Janet let out a soft sob, covering her mouth, and even Bob's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Moving into my parents' house with Mike should have been a fresh start, a new chapter. The house felt too big for just one person, and everywhere I looked, I saw memories of my parents. I thought Mike would fill some of those empty spaces, but I was learning quickly that his presence was more of a reminder of what was missing than a replacement. In the beginning, he was attentive, always checking on me and making sure I had everything I needed within reach. But as days turned into weeks, the attentive husband act began to wear thin. Mike started spending more time on his computer, his headphones on, shutting me out. One evening, as I maneuvered my wheelchair to the kitchen, I found him staring blankly at his screen. "Mike, have you thought about looking for a new job?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "The insurance won't cover everything, and the bills are piling up." He didn't look away from the screen. "I told you, I'm taking care of you now. That's my job," Mike said, his tone resolute. "I can manage during the day." I pushed back, feeling a twinge of frustration. "You don't need to be here all the time." Finally, he turned to face me, his expression a mix of irritation and something else I couldn't quite decipher. "What do you want from me, Em? I'm here, aren't I?" I was taken aback by his tone. "Being physically here isn't the same as being present, Mike. I need a partner, not just a roommate." He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the tile. "You know what, Em? Maybe I need more than this too. Maybe I wasn't cut out to be a nurse." His words stung, and I watched him storm out, slamming the door behind him. I was left alone in the silence of the kitchen, the weight of his words settling around me like dust. I wasn't just alone, I was lonely. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I thought about how quickly our modest honeymoon period had ended. The vows we had taken felt like they were from another lifetime. The Mike who had promised to stand by my side through sickness and health seemed like a stranger now. As the weeks dragged on, his absences grew longer and his excuses more flimsy. He was either out with friends or lost in a digital world that seemed to have no room for me. I felt like an obstacle in his life, a burden he hadn't anticipated. One particularly tough day, when the pain was bad and the house felt more like a mausoleum than a home, I heard the front door open. Expecting Mike, I called out, "Is that you?" "Yeah, it's me," he replied, his voice distant. "I'm just grabbing a few things, then I'm heading out again." I wheeled myself to the hallway and watched as he rifled through a drawer for his keys. "Going out with friends?" I asked, trying to mask the hurt in my voice. He paused, keys in hand, and sighed. I need some space, okay? It's not easy for me either." I nodded, biting back tears. "I know. I just thought we could spend some time together, like we used to." He shrugged, avoiding my eyes. "Maybe when things settle down a bit." I got to go. The house felt emptier with each passing day, a vast space filled with silence and the ghosts of better times. It wasn't just Mike's absence or the void left by my parents' voices. It was the small things that started to go missing. A vase my mother loved, a silver frame holding a family photo, a painting that used to hang in the hallway. I first noticed it when I was trying to distract myself with memories. I wheeled myself into the living room, intending to look through the photo albums, but as my eyes scanned the room, they fell on the bare patch of wall where the painting had been. "Mike?" I called out, unsure when he had last gone out. There was no answer, and the emptiness of the house seemed to echo back at me. That evening, when Mike returned, I asked him, "Have you seen the landscape painting that used to be in the hallway?" He barely glanced up from his phone. "Oh, that old thing. It was getting dusty, and I figured we could use the space for something else." Something about his casual dismissal didn't sit right with me, but it was my mom's favorite, I said, a tremor of unease in my voice. He shrugged, his attention still half on his screen. "We can get another painting. It's no big deal." But it was a big deal. The items that went missing next were unmistakable, things that had been in my family for years. One afternoon, I caught Janet, Mike's mom, in the act. She was bustling around the living room with a big black garbage bag. "Janet, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharp with alarm. She jumped, a guilty flush creeping up her neck. "Oh, just some spring cleaning, dear. This place is cluttered with so many old things." "But those are my things," I protested, my heart rate picking up. "Oh, we're just making things nicer for you," she said sweetly. "You'll thank us later." I watched her like a hawk every time she visited after that, but the thefts became sneakier, more calculated. And every time, the sense of violation deepened. When I brought up the missing items, I was met with reassurances that it was all in my best interest. One night, lying in bed while Mike scrolled through his phone, his new nighttime ritual, I said, "Mike, your parents have been taking things from the house." "My things?" He didn't look up. "Mom's just trying to help. You know she's got a knack for this sort of thing." "Help?" I echoed, disbelief coloring my tone. By taking my parents' belongings. He sighed, finally setting his phone down and turning to face me. Look, they think we should be looking forward, not backward. They're just trying to lighten your load. I wanted to scream, to rage against the violation and disrespect, but I was exhausted, tired of fighting, tired of questioning my own sanity. This isn't what I want, I whispered, the fight draining out of me. Mike reached over and patted my hand, a gesture that felt more patronizing than comforting. Try to get some sleep, things will look better in the morning. I couldn't take it anymore. I confided in Anna, my closest friend and a massage therapist who had been helping with my rehabilitation. Her visits were one of the rare sources of relief I had. Anna, I said as she worked on my stiff muscles, things are going missing around the house. And I can't shake the feeling that Mike and his parents are behind it. Anna paused, her hands stilling on my shoulders. Have you talked to Mike about this? I have, I said, but he just brushes it off, saying his parents are helping us by decluttering. Anna's brows furrowed with concern. That doesn't sound right, Do you want me to do something? Maybe come by more often and keep an eye out. The idea sparked something in me. Could you help me set up a camera or something to record what's going on when I'm not in the room? Anna nodded with determination. I'll bring something over tomorrow. We'll get to the bottom of this. True to her word, Anna returned the next day with discreet recording devices, which she placed in strategic locations around the house. It felt like something out of a spy movie, and if I weren't so desperate for the truth, I might have laughed at the absurdity of it all. A few days later, Anna came back with the recordings. We sat down to listen, and as Mike's and his parents' voices filled the room, the blood in my veins turned to ice. Their scheme unfolded through their casual conversation. Once we get her committed, the house and everything in it will be ours, Mike's voice said, clear and cold. Yeah, the place will sell for a fortune. And all those antiques, pure profit, his mother added, her tone greedy. We just need to make sure Emily doesn't catch on before we have everything in place, his father chimed in. Tears streamed down my face as I listened to their betrayal. The people who had promised to care for me, to be my family, were plotting against me. Anna's hand gripped mine tightly, her voice laced with anger. We have to do something, I wiped my eyes, the sorrow quickly giving way to a steely resolve. We will. I'm not going to let them get away with this. The morning after listening to the recordings, I tried to act normal, but every word they said and every smile they gave felt like a lie. It was during breakfast when the full weight of their deceit settled in. I noticed something was wrong when the usual city noise that drifted through the open window was absent. I wheeled myself over to investigate, only to find that the ramps that allowed me access to the garden were gone. Mike, I called out, panic lacing my voice. Where are the ramps? He came into the room, feigning ignorance. The ramps? Oh, they were looking a bit worn. I thought they needed fixing. I stared at him, trying to process the betrayal. And you didn't think to tell me. How am I supposed to get around? His gaze was evasive as he shrugged. I just thought you'd be safer inside for now, until we get new ones. The room felt like it was spinning, and it wasn't due to my injury. Safer or trapped? The words slipped out before I could stop them. He didn't respond, just turned and walked away, leaving me seething with anger and helplessness. Later, when I asked Janet about it, she was syrupy sweet with false concern. We're just looking out for you, dear. We wouldn't want you to have an accident, she said, touching my shoulder with a faint, insincere tenderness. I pulled away from her touch, feeling the sting of their deceit. I didn't realize needing ramps qualified as a hazard. I replied, my voice steady but my insides trembling. Janet's eyes hardened for a moment before she regained her composure. We're just trying to help, Emily. It's for the best. That night, as I lay in bed, the darkness felt oppressive. Mike was out again, probably drowning his guilt in cheap beer and fleeting thrills. I reached for my phone, its screen a small beacon in the dark, and dialed the emergency number Anna had given me. Anna, I whispered when she picked up. They've removed the ramps. I'm literally trapped in my own home. Her voice was a lifeline amid the turmoil. Hang tight, I'm going to make some calls. We'll sort this out. The next day, I was in the kitchen when I heard the doorbell. My heart pounded as I maneuvered toward the entrance. It was Anna, flanked by a man and a woman in crisp suits with stern expressions. They were from a local disability rights organization here to assess my living situation. Beside them stood my lawyer, Mr. Hammond, clutching a leather briefcase. Emily, we're here to make things right, Anna said, her determination matching the resolve in my chest. Mr. Hammond stepped forward. We need to establish the facts first. Emily, I'll need to see the house and check against the inventory of your parents' belongings. As we moved through the house, the representatives from the service took notes, their disapproval clear at the missing ramps and the blatant disregard for my welfare. Mike walked in during the commotion, surprise etched on his face. What's going on? Who are these people? I looked at him, really looked at him, letting the full weight of my gaze settle on him. I'm taking back control, Mike. This is my lawyer, and these are advocates for people with disabilities. They're here to ensure my home is safe and that my rights are respected. Janet and Bob entered the fray, their confusion turning to fear as they realized the seriousness of the situation. Emily, darling, what is this about? Janet's voice trembled. It's about my rights, my home, and the truth, I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Mr. Hammond is here to confirm the inventory of my inheritance. Mr. Hammond opened his briefcase, pulling out documents and photographs. We have detailed records of all items bequeathed to Mrs. Harper. It seems several are missing. Bob's face paled. Emily, I'm sure this is all just a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, I replied, the recordings Anna had provided playing in my head. And I have more than just missing items to discuss. Mike's parents exchanged glances, their facade of caring in-laws crumbling before my eyes. Mike stood there, silent, the reality of the situation dawning on him. Anna moved closer to me. We also have evidence of the conversations you've had regarding Emily's property and well-being. The advocates from the Disability Service spoke up. Removing access to the ramps is a direct violation of Mrs. Harper's rights. We'll be taking action. As Mr. Hammond laid out the evidence of their theft and their plans for my future, I saw the trap I had been in from the outside, but now the tables had turned. I was no longer the victim in their game. I was the one calling the shots. Mike finally found his voice. I can explain. I shook my head. Save it, Mike. I've heard enough. Janet started to cry, and Bob put an arm around her, but there was no comfort to be found in their deceit. The day of the trial was a culmination of everything I had endured. The courtroom was stark, the air thick with tension. Mike and his parents were on one side, looking nothing like the family that had once promised to care for me. I was on the other, with Anna beside me and Mr. Hammond ready with his briefcase of evidence. As the proceedings began, the judge looked down at us from his bench, his gaze lingering on me for a moment. We are here to examine the evidence regarding the allegations of theft and the premeditated exploitation of Emily Harper, he said. Mr. Hammond presented the recordings, the inventory discrepancies, and testimonies from the disability advocates. The evidence was damning, and Mike's family could do little but squirm under the weight of their deceit. Janet sobbed quietly, her sobs a soundtrack to the unraveling of their scheme. We never meant for things to go this far, she whispered when it was her turn to speak. The judge's voice was firm as he addressed them. You took advantage of a vulnerable person. There's no excuse for your actions. Mike stood, his voice barely audible. I'm sorry, I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at him, the history we shared flashing before my eyes. Sorry, is it enough, Mike? You chose this path. The gavel came down like the final word on the life I had once known. Mike and his parents were found guilty, reparations were ordered, and they were to have no further contact with me. With Anna's support and a dedicated team, I began physical therapy. Each small movement was a victory, each step a testament to my resilience. My legs, once lifeless, began to tingle with new strength. One day, as I managed to stand with the help of parallel bars, Anna cheered me on. Look at you, you're doing it. The smile on my face was mirrored in her own. I am, aren't I? The joy bubbled up from a place I thought had been broken beyond repair. I moved forward, one day at a time. The house, once a mausoleum of my past life, was slowly transformed back into a home, a sanctuary where I healed and grew stronger.